Bill?
I'd like to know where you stand on securing the borders and your opinion on the Arizona lawsuit.
The borders need to be secured. That's my position on it. Fence, yeah. If it was up to me, I'd have, no man's land, even if it had to take up some of the U.S. territory, a space between Mexico and, along the borders of the bordering states, to be not only surveilled, not only a fence there in the middle of nowhere that somebody can climb over. We've all seen the pictures of them climbing over. But they need to be manned. So how you man them? Well, last time I checked, we have U.S. military. But see, the problem is that part of my Air Force career I spent in South Korea. And you know what our job there was? Protecting their border. I've been several different places around the world. My last place I was at the end of my Air Force career was in support of Desert Shield, not Desert Storm. That's when the war started. I went over there and set up just things prior to that for my career field. And when I had already had my retirement papers in, they sent me home. But nonetheless, we send troops over there to protect those borders. That's what we were doing, basically. We're protecting Kuwait's border, get people out of there so we can protect Kuwait. And we're protecting Germany's borders, and we're protecting Philippines' border. I mean, what about ours? See, and if you want to cut, we were talking earlier about cutting spending. Well, let's bring the troops home from everywhere. There's nobody declared war on us except the terrorists, and we haven't even declared war on them. We say it was a war on terror. But at the time, they were in Afghanistan, so what did we do? We went into Iraq. Of course it makes sense. If we secure the border with a fence, with a no man's land, or whatever you want to call it, I can envision like a fence with some space in between it that we can have be patrolled. I think that we should turn people back away from our country in a dignified manner. I don't think we need to, rush them away at gunpoint per se. I think we need to be humane about the entire thing. But we got to keep, the word illegal means something to me. You're here illegally. Why are we going to give them? Why are we going to give benefits to those who come here illegally? So yes, secure the borders. That shouldn't be on the floor. Secure the borders, and don't just send drones flying back and forth. Let's get some people down there, Let's get some people down there to say, okay, well, we've got X number of folks coming across our border, because among those people, many of whom like to come to this country because they do want to work, et cetera, even though it's still illegal. Well, one of these days, and if it hasn't already happened, we're going to have some terrorists come through that same route.
Well, we need to absolutely secure our borders. It's indefensible and inexcusable that a country as great as this country, greatest country in the world, doesn't have secure borders. And we need to secure them for a couple of reasons. One, obviously the illegals, drug trafficking problems, human trafficking, and also it's a miracle that a terrorist hasn't walked across that porous border with a dirty bomb and caused havoc in this country. So it's a national security issue. And I like to say that when the dam breaks and the flood comes in, before you can start cleaning up that flood, you got to fix the dam, and that's why we got to have a secure border. Now your question, that's whoever asked it back here about Arizona. I'm very supportive of Arizona. Arizona's doing the right thing, and I think it's disgusting that our federal government is suing Arizona. Yeah. And this is kind of interesting. This last year in the Ohio Senate, Butler County Sheriff, that's Butler County, just north of Hamilton, there in Cincinnati, came to his state senator Gary Cates and says, we got a problem here with illegals in Butler County, but I can't enforce the immigration laws. I wasn't aware of the fact that local law enforcement can't enforce immigration laws. Only if two things happen. One, if the feds come in and ask for their assistance, they can assist, or if they apprehend an illegal person committing another crime and they determine that that person's illegal, then they turn them over to the feds. Otherwise they can't. So we passed a bill in the Ohio Senate that I think mirrors the Arizona law that says if the local county sheriff, for example, wants to, it's permissible, wants to enforce immigration laws, they can. Of course, the House, in the Ohio House, the Democrats control that chamber, and they won't even have a hearing on it because the governor said he has no part of it. And so I think that tells you that it's not about their policies, it's not about illegals, it's about power, and it's about giving them an amnesty and a voter base, I think, down the road. So I'm totally against amnesty. We need to secure our borders. We need to toughen up our visa program. We have too many people come over here on visas, and after the visa runs out, they kind of just disappear. And so that's how we got to address the illegal problem, and just work at it. But you can't address the problem with all the illegals that are in this country if you don't have secure borders to start with, because you got to fix that dam.
Holly.
I have a very vested interest in our U.S. military, as my husband is serving his third tour, his second tour in Iraq currently. He just left at the beginning of September in support of Operation New Dawn. What can both of you candidates do to ensure me that while we are removing troops from Iraq, well, I mean, they say they are, but we're really not doing that much, that when we do begin to make a major move out, that they will still be supported monetarily to still have the assistance that they need and deserve. On my husband's first tour, his Humvee was hit by a roadside bomb and he sustained many injuries. Not enough to take him out of the service, but I mean, it was incredible that he was not killed in action. So what can you do to ensure me that our troops will still be safe even when we are departing from the war in Iraq?
First of all, I want to thank you and your husband for especially your husband's service, for protecting our freedoms and our way of life against the terrorists. And also, we need to remember always that families like yourself, it's a huge sacrifice because they're gone, as you know, a year at a time or longer. And I don't know if you got children or not, and if you did, a lot of families do. That's tough, and so we need to do everything we possibly can to support our troops and support our veterans. And we've done some things here in the Ohio legislature, the limited things we can do for tax credits and the bonus thing we put on there for people that served in a combat zone and served in the military. But one thing that just infuriates me is that the commander-in-chief of our armed forces wants to set a timetable and telegraph to the terrorists when we're going to pull our troops out. That's crazy. That's just like, you might as well sign this and surrender. If we're committed to a war, if we decide that it's right, what we have to do to protect our interests and our national security and our freedoms and liberties and all that, we need to fight it and get out of it, win it and get back home and get out of it. This protracted stuff, is just ridiculous, and worried about that something bad might happen. War's bad. It's already bad. So let's get it done and get home and bring troops home. But you don't put half as many troops over there, or you don't do what they did when the generals over there asked for more troops. You don't take 6 months or longer to determine, and they don't give them what they need. If we're going to make this commitment, then we gotta let our generals, the experts, we gotta trust them that they know what they're doing, and we gotta hold them accountable that they get the job done. But we gotta give them what they ask for. And when they beefed up the MVs for the roadside bombs, Congress screwed around doing that. They wouldn't pass the funding, and then they just screwed around. That's not what we do. We're going to put our men and women in harm's way. We got to be committed to them, and not screw around and say, well, we're going to take this vote and we're going to wait to fund it, and just last fall, a month or so ago, I guess it was August, they almost didn't fund the troops. And then what they do, then when they decide to fund them, they decide to put a whole bunch of other things in there that has nothing to do with the military or the forces funding. So then it makes to get that vote through. So I had to vote for the troops. That's where I said we need to break those bills up. And I know Leader Boehner, the next Speaker of the House, is not going to bundle those bills up. We're going to unbundle these bills, and we're going to vote on the issues separately, but we will fund the troops, and we're going to be committed, and we're not going to tell the enemy what we're going to do. Other than that, we're gonna tell you, we're coming over here to win, and if you're hell bent to destroy us, we're gonna destroy you first. And we're gonna use all the resources of this United States government to do it.
I would fully support funding to bring the troops home, and in as safe a manner as could possibly be, with all the support they would need to exit the countries that we have no authority being in the first place, in a safe manner. But before any of that, we need to get we need to get folks in Congress that understand that we have a U.S. Constitution that says if you are going to war, that you have to declare a war. It has to be debated. There's a reason why there's a reason why the Constitution calls for that. And the reason is that you have representatives. This is a representative government. You send people to Washington, D.C. to sit in these meetings and decide, hey, our country's being threatened, blah, blah, blah. And you need somebody there that will make that debate for you and come back and tell you, this is what I feel about this, and this is, this is where we are on this. But we're not even having a debate. We're just going to war. It's like, okay, we're going to war, we need to appropriate some funds, who's for that? Who's going to not appropriate funds to support the troops? We love our troops. But the problem is sending them there in the first place when there is no authority to do so. You can do the 90-day thing, the President's War Powers Act and all that, but last time I looked, it's been longer than 90 days. And yet we keep appropriating funds for it. And then they bring, wounded and et cetera, troops back home. That, in their heart, were defending the United States of America. And yet, listen to the politicians. What are we really defending? They say, I'll tell you the truth, folks, it irritates me when I hear them say, we're fighting for democracy. The United States of America is not a democracy. This is a republic. And until people start understanding that, it's not a majority rule, it's a rule of law. And the rule of law says in our Constitution that if you're going to go to war, you better sit down and discuss it, because you have to have the people behind you. It has to be a just reason, a just verification to go in the first place, and then give them everything they need to win that war and bring them back. That's it. That's the whole thing right there. And you can talk about Speaker Boehner, you can talk about Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I'll tell you what, if I go to Congress, I'm voting for Ron Paul for Speaker of the House, because he seems to be the only one up there that has a clue what the U.S. Constitution stands for and means. You can disagree with that, and that's fine. Don't vote for me then. But I'll tell you what, he would only be a speaker for 2 years until he becomes president if I could help the man get elected, because the man understands what the U.S. Constitution, the original U.S. Constitution was supposed to be, and not making things up as we go. Thank you.